Felicia Ford. I am incredibly grateful that you're here. You're a growth strategist. How do you prioritize strategies?
Oh my goodness. For myself or for those who
Yeah.
hire?
Well, for
So,
yourself, I am always curious of how people go about doing this for themselves because it's very key to know how to do it for yourself before we can do it for others.
absolutely. So I've always shared with my team members that my priorities align with the P's. So people, processes, policies, then paperwork.
Hmm.
But of course, I have to put my own person first, right? Because we're our best clients. We're
Yes.
we're our most important client because if we can't take care of ourselves, we then can't take care of everyone else.
Yeah, I say that
So
all the time. We are our best clients for sure.
we are our best clients, our most important client. And so over the years, I've simply developed this non-negotiable morning routine,
Hmm.
and I have to go through that routine in order to be able to show up as my best self, in order to be creative, in order to have the space to make decisions. And so that looks like music, not first thing in the morning, but within like the first 15 minutes of the
Hmm.
morning. I
Yes.
listen to the same thing every morning.
Mhm.
And then I am usually journaling. And one of my former coaches, she said that she journaled like 1,000 words a day. And I was like, that sounds like a lot, right?
Hmm.
But I'm not a typer. I'm more of a writer for
Yep.
journaling purposes because that mind to hand
Yeah, that
duo,
it's powerful to do that.
absolutely powerful.
Yeah.
And then I'm routine. I don't necessarily like imposed routines, but for my own person, that is a part of my routine. And then at the end of my day, I have a routine of reflecting and unwinding. And as long as I'm able to do those things as anchors,
Hmm.
then I can really be my best self. And I would say that for my weeks, my Mondays and my Fridays are my anchor days. And
Mm.
I read something somewhere where there were anchor days as far as what companies were using for when their staff would be in the office or not.
Hmm.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Those anchor days are completely different. My anchor
Hmm.
days mean that on Mondays, I'm spending the day planning, creating, and thinking. And then on Fridays, I'm spending the day reflecting and admin work, and then a little bit of planning for the
Hmm.
next week. But those things are my keys to my own personal professional growth.
Well, I knew I liked you when we first met, and now that we have so many similarities,
Yes.
I know that, we are very like-minded. Yes, I think that it is incredibly important to have a morning routine, and I didn't have that for many years. When I
Hmm.
lived in New York and before I began my personal development journey, I used to get up and I'd snooze forever and then jump in the shower, run out of the house like a bat out of hell, hoping that there would be no traffic so I can get to work on
Hmm.
time and maybe
Hmm.
grab something on the way to work.
Hmm.
And yeah, I look at that girl and I think, girl, you've come a long way.
A long way. Right. Isn't it amazing to reflect on how busy we were
Yeah.
then, during those
Hmm.
phases, and
Yeah.
how unintentional we were with
Hmm.
our times and with our mindset and with our
Yeah.
how we were starting our day.
Yeah. And by the way, I look at everything that I used to do, and I had a level of success, obviously. I mean, I was
Hmm.
promoted several times in a couple of years and grew in salary and through the ranks. But the reality is that I would not call myself a high performer.
Okay.
I I really was living by default and
Hmm.
burning the candle at both ends. So,
Hmm.
what is your definition of a high performer?
A high performer is someone who, and you just described it, you don't necessarily have intention about what you're achieving or how you're achieving it, but you are achieving goals, right?
Mhm.
From the outside could look and say, oh my God, she's doing amazing. But it doesn't mean that you aren't burning the candle and that you can't sustain that. So a high
Mhm.
performer, from my perspective, is someone who is intentional about their growth, who has
Mhm.
that, I'm going to say the buzzword, right? There may be a little controversy, but they have that life work balance, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that you can be a
Mhm.
high performer and sustain it if you aren't taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's
Agreed.
implementing that mindset practice,
Mhm.
that self-care practice in
Yeah.
alignment with what goals are you working towards. And you sharing that part of it, I was the same way, Julie. I was just on a mission. And,
Mhm.
I did have an internal drive and a
Yeah.
mission to not necessarily accumulate more, or to achieve more. My goal has always been freedom.
Mhm.
It's always been freedom of my time. It's always been, I'm very respectful of my superiors. However, I don't agree with that. So it's how can I position myself to then be a better decision maker. But
Mhm.
high performers are those who are well aware of their personal growth, and they're very self-aware. Right? We haven't reached the pinnacle of self-awareness, but
Mm.
very self-aware and intentional about what they're doing and why they're doing it. It's not
Yeah.
just here we're in a rat race and we're trying to accumulate the more money, I mean, money's
Mhm.
always great. It's a great tool,
Mhm.
but that's not the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Amazing. I see so many people definitely in that rat race, and their thought is typically if I have more money, if I have more time, but then they're not willing to make the investment to, sit down and say, okay, let me plan this out. Let's be
Mhm,
strategic about this. What
mhm,
do I need to do?
mhm,
And again, they're not content with with their life now, and they're seeking happiness when they lose weight, when they retire, when they
mhm,
do. And the reality is that we take ourselves wherever we go. And if we're not
mhm,
happy today,
mhm.
we're not going to be happy no matter what we
Absolutely.
have.
Absolutely. I mean, we
Yeah.
see that with, and God bless them, but the celebrities or the high profile people who,
Mhm.
what the outside world may say is everything, right? And they're
Mhm.
equating that everything with enough money, and I'm using air quotes here,
Yeah.
enough, right?
Enough. Right. Right.
But they're depressed or they're
Mhm.
lonely, or
Yeah.
they're just simply unhappy with the life that they've created. And so that contentment is a part of that mindset strategy,
Mhm.
and of deciding what is my why? Why am I really doing this? Because when you have the money, then what? Then
Yeah.
what?
Then what?
Then what?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, following that theme, you have success. You help others achieve success. You were named a top 40 under 40 honoree. You
Hmm.
also, again, you're a contributor to Forbes Women and Forbes Coaches Council, and the executive director of a private foundation.
Hmm.
So, a lot of accomplishments. What
Hmm.
is enough for you when it comes to accomplishments, when it comes to success? And again, we define success so differently from person to person, but I'm curious.
Hmm. Success for me is, at the end of my day, and this may sound strange, but at the end of my day, am I tired? Right? Not exhausted, but am I
Right.
tired? If I'm tired, I know that I've given all that I was supposed to give for the day. And
Mhm.
that supposed to is from my own internal
Right.
measurement of, have I given today? Success is not the accumulation of things for me. It's not the accumulation of awards or recognition. And it's countercultural, right? It's not about how many likes I have or how many followers I have. Those things are great for analytics and for business measurements, but for my own personal satisfaction is, have I shown up as myself?
Mhm.
Have I regulated myself amidst all of the chaos and all of the crisis?
Mm.
And have the people who needed me, have they been served? And ultimately, have I given from a full cup?
Yeah.
That is my definition of success. Now, I have a personal drive of achievement, and I have personal competition with myself, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, this looks interesting. I would consider myself a multi-potentialite. And so I get excited about knowledge. I get
Me
excited
too.
about, oh my goodness. books, technology, neuroscience, those things light a fire in my soul. And the moment that I can share some of that, random facts with other people who are also just excited,
Yeah.
that is exciting for me. And so that is what drives me. It's not a matter of, again, it's not a matter of the recognition. Now, some of the awareness campaigns that I do require awareness in order to move forward. But at the end of the day, I am not moved in one way or the other
Mm,
by who's clapping or who's paying attention. I have the goal of getting things done. I'm a finisher. And so
mm.
that is my definition of success.
I love it. You were talking about neuroscience, and yesterday I interviewed um, a woman, and she did a TED Talk called "The Woman Who Changed Her Brain," and it has millions of views.
Mm,
She is the founder, and she has studied neuroplasticity and has been
yes,
teaching this since 1978, when
amazing.
neuroplasticity was not a science that people accepted. But
Right.
she's a prime example of, she was told, her parents were told when she was a kindergartner, I believe, that
Mm,
she had learning disabilities and she would not amount to much.
mm,
But her parents were committed to helping her change that narrative. And now she does that for others. So it was an incredible interview. So I think that in the work that you and I are doing, it is important to continue to understand, behavior as we're helping our clients.
absolutely.
And understanding ourselves is the first step, as we talked about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. I'm going to for sure listen to that episode because, again, I love
Yeah.
neuroplasticity. But for so long, I mean, that's what science was telling us for so long is
Hmm.
that you cannot change the brain,
Yeah.
right? And so this research and people like her are obviously showing and teaching and sharing that you do have the possibility of changing the brain. Um,
Yeah.
and while you're doing it, being patient with yourself as you are rewiring those networks.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's fascinating how her organization, and this is the one thing I really loved about our conversation, is that she is now, her organization goes into schools.
Mm,
And that is exactly where we needed, because I remember being in
yes.
school and it was, if you don't get the good grades, you're a failure, right?
Mhm,
And I immediately got the message that I was, not a great student when it came to math. At one
mhm,
point I was, but I, had gaps and whatnot. And
mhm.
um, I really started to tell myself the story. I'm never going to be good at math. I'm never going to be good at math.
Oh,
And for many years, that's been sort of like, and as a high achiever, if I don't hit the mark, it's like the spiraling happens.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, and you just gave a great example of the power of plasticity, and the power of affirmations, right? Some people
Hmm.
don't believe in affirmations. And I said, well, you're right, right? If
Yeah.
there's an affirmation that you don't believe, no, it won't work.
It won't work.
It won't
Absolutely.
work, right? But
Yeah.
if you're also affirming in the negative, it will work,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that. We've seen that so many times, I think,
Yeah.
over the course of our careers as we continue to work. I'm curious, when you and I met, we discovered that you are in Hampton, Virginia.
Yeah, so my business is based there.
Uh-huh.
I've recently moved back to Chesapeake, Virginia.
Oh, fun.
But yeah, I mean, this is the seven city. So anyone
Mhm.
who's familiar with the area, with Hampton Roads, there are there's more, but they go by seven cities. And I say they because I'm not originally from here.
Okay.
I do, it's my right now home, and I
Hmm.
am heavily invested in this community,
Hmm.
and some of the school systems. And I went to undergrad here, so
Hmm.
I've my heart has been here.
Yeah.
I became a woman here. Established my career here, and so it's been a great experience of
Hmm.
encountering the different personalities of every city, and the riches that are here, but
Yeah.
also encountering and, working towards solving some of the systemic issues that
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Where did you go to school?
So I went to undergrad at Old Dominion University.
Mhm.
It was my first pick for the wrong reasons.
I'm curious
Um,
now. What were the wrong reasons,
well,
Felicia?
so I grew up closer to the University of Virginia,
Hmm.
was accepted there, and I chose Old Dominion University because it was far
Hmm.
enough away from home, but
Hmm.
not too far from home. And UVA just felt like it was like I was
Yeah,
not leaving for college. And so
right.
I chose Old Dominion, but I grew a wonderful community of friends, and had a wonderful support system while I was in undergrad,
Mm.
and had an amazing experience.
Yeah,
Loved it.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that you've really have bloomed where you are planted today. And I
Yes.
really firmly believe that. When I moved to Connecticut from New York City, I knew that I needed to plant myself and I needed to invest in the community.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I've done. This is home, and I am going to give back and really focus on lifting up. Because it is, a lot of people here in Connecticut say, oh, I hate Connecticut. Oh, I now move out of Connecticut. People find always the most negative things about the place where they live. And I think, wow, there's such beauty. There's such um, n- dynamics here that are wonderful. There's so many great things happening in our community. And I really wish people would see that.
Absolutely. I mean, you were here recently, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You were here recently. And
Hmm.
I treat myself like a tourist sometimes
Yeah.
because the beach is in our backyard.
Hmm.
There are so many things to do that are accessible.
Hmm.
And people vacation here. And
Hmm.
so it's like, well, we wouldn't have the tourism that we have if
Right.
there weren't beautiful things to do
Oh,
and beautiful
absolutely.
experiences. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I treated myself as a tourist this past July, on my
Yeah.
staycation. And so
Ooh, fun.
it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, well, we tend to do that with my husband. We every once in a while we'll go for an adventure. We'll get in the car, don't have a destination, and
Hmm.
then we will pick a random restaurant from Yelp, and we will
Yeah.
start with breakfast there and
Uh-huh.
then kind of see where we go. And this weekend, as a matter of fact, we went to breakfast. There's a new coffee shop in town, and what a wonderful job they're doing. And then from there, we were going to go to a holiday market
Hmm.
downtown. A lot of people, think, oh, it's so unsafe to go downtown. Please, child, this isn't, come on. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we went downtown and it wasn't open yet. So then we decided
Oh.
to go to this other place that it's a really cool place they opened during the pandemic, by the way. It
Mm.
is for all intents and purposes, is basically a food court, but it's
Hmm.
an international food court with
Oh,
food from everywhere.
exciting.
And then during the summer, they have concerts and they have artists. And on Saturday, they happen to have a like a craft market, right?
Oh,
But
I love a good
local
market, Julie.
artisans were there,
Yeah.
and I got to speak to this woman who is a photographer here in town. And
Mhm.
yeah, so such an amazing wealth of people, but I'm willing to look. And people
Absolutely.
sometimes are not willing to look. And that's where,
Yeah.
you get caught up in that rat race of not being content, right? With what
Mm.
you have, what's around
Mhm.
you.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a part of that balance of
Yeah.
high achievers, right?
Hmm.
It's maintaining curiosity. Oh my gosh, curiosity is
So
such an
good.
important, I'm going to say skill set, because for some
Hmm.
people, it's uncomfortable for them not to have instructions and not to
Yeah.
have things
Structured. Yeah, for
outlined,
sure.
right? Exactly. But
Hmm.
being a high achiever, you naturally have the ability to
Yeah.
be curious, right? We're
Hmm.
always asking questions. And it's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's
Hmm.
what else? What might there be? Right?
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
could I find? Who might
Mhm.
I meet? Right?
Right.
Because I love a good market. I love visiting
Yes.
farmers markets. I love in downtown Norfolk here, there's Selden Market. I mean, I love markets.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've met some of the most fascinating interesting people that are just following their passions, and they have been tenacious and
Hmm.
going after their dreams. I met a woman, actually, I love her. Her name is Jen. I had her on the show. And
Hmm.
Jen, she has these t-shirts, and basically, and I could be a little snarky. Um, and I'm like, oh my God, all of my things that I think, she's got them on t-shirts. This is amazing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But she taught herself the process of screen printing and building a
Mm,
business, and she is doing the work, right? Because she's like, I
yeah,
want to do this, and
yeah.
she's doing it. Tell me a little bit more about legacy. I am starting to create for the 3 years that I've been doing the podcast. It
Mhm,
has been mainly interviews because I feel that there's so many incredible individuals like you and others that have come that have incredible stories to share. But
mhm,
I really also know that I have more to say. So I've decided I'm going to be doing these solo shows, and my first
mm,
show is on legacy. So I'm
mm,
interested to get your thoughts on what is it? Are you building a legacy, and what
mhm,
will it be?
mhm. So I would say that legacy was not something that I thought of early in my career,
Hmm.
right? I don't know what 22-year-old is thinking about legacy, right?
Yes.
But I would say over the years, as I've considered why I'm doing my work, right? And this might be another conversation for another day, but there was a time in my life where everything was about survival,
Mm.
and moving out of survival mode into thriving mode and thinking about what's going to be left for the next generation of my family.
Yeah.
I don't have any children, but I have two adorable nieces who
Mhm.
can get whatever they want from me. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I have nieces and nephews too, and
yeah,
yes, I'm with you.
you understand.
Yes.
Um, and not just for them, right? So that when I think about legacy for them, it's the trust and the
Hmm.
financial parts of it. But also who am I living as a woman right now? What
Hmm.
example am I making, and what am I contributing to their lives? I mean, they're extremely young, but I make an intention to spend time with them,
Hmm.
and for them to see my face and to hear my voice and me to physically be with them. But
Hmm.
then also there's this cusp of the generations, right? Like, where are we
Yeah.
with passing the baton, right? And each generation has its own thing, and as generations have began to intersect with other generations over the years, there's always, I feel like, this thought of like, oh, here come the millennials. Oh, here come the Gen Zs. Oh, those baby boomers, right? But I am in a unique position where I work with all generations.
Yeah.
And I've oftentimes been the youngest person in the room,
Hmm.
in leadership, the youngest person in leadership. So I've always worked with those who are much older than me, but I've also mostly worked with children in the beginning of my career. So I've been able to kind of balance and walk the lines between the two. So I believe that legacy also includes equipping and
Hmm.
empowering
Yeah.
and partnering with both sides of the generations, those behind
Hmm.
and those who are before me. And so I'm really excited and intentional about information sharing and bridging gaps and
Hmm.
connecting people, and saying, hey, did you know this? Or, hey, have you met this person? Hey, I think this might be a great idea for you to consider. And it's never a push, right? It's
Hmm.
always curiosity, from
Right.
a place
Right.
of curiosity. It's always from a place of, I think this might be something you might
Hmm.
want to consider. And so I think that each of us has a responsibility for legacy, right?
Hmm.
I know that some people who are on the opposite end of high achievers might feel desolate, might feel hopeless, might feel like they
Mm.
don't have a purpose. But if you were to first consider, what legacy am I going to leave? That could be the very first step on your growth journey of purpose and intention. And if you desire to be a high achiever, all of us won't be. right?
Mhm.
And there are going to be seasons for us high achievers where we aren't highly achieving. We
Oh,
are
absolutely.
we are resting.
Right. Right.
We are resting. But yeah, legacy is something that I think about often, and it helps drive me in my intentions, in my growth journey, and in setting boundaries with what I will and won't do.
Yeah, such a great answer. Thank you so much. And I love those insights. I think that, again, this is something that we have to define for ourselves.
Hmm.
And like anything else, we have to really understand that somebody else's definition of that or whatever it might be may not necessarily fit into our value system, may
Hmm.
not necessarily fit into what we want and where we want to go. So
Hmm.
that's great. I love that answer. And yes, aunties unite.
Aunties unite.
Absolutely. I just sent my niece. My niece is, my youngest niece, because I have several, but
Hmm.
the one who is 10, and she reminds me a lot of myself when
Oh,
I was that age and from a young age. She loves to dance. And my sister is, she's a girly girl too. My sister is not. So
uh-huh.
it's always fun to have the girly girl talks with her.
Yeah.
But I just sent her a book because in the mornings, I typically call her in the mornings
Yes.
and I'm like, hey, um, don't forget everything is, and she's like, figure outable. And, we
I
talk
love
about
that,
these.
Julie.
Yeah. So from an early age, I started to share that with her. And she used to be like, figure outable. And now as she gets
Oh,
older, she's like, ugh, figure outable.
that will last. That
Yeah.
will stick with her.
Yeah.
And I love that you share that because that's something that I do with my niece. It's early morning talks and
Yeah.
affirmations.
That's right.
That's a beautiful thing. See, there's more that we have in common.
Yeah. So, I just met this other woman who was on the show, and she is a coach for teens.
Mm,
And I'm like, what? How did teens hire you? But anyway, so it was a very interesting, way that she works with them. She works with the parents, and she then helps them, and coaches them with their mindset and going through everything that they're going through. So she
hmm.
published a book and I sent it to my niece
Mm,
because I'm like, oh, this is a journal that she could do. Like,
yeah.
I am in for this, and again, it's
Yeah.
something that I journal. And of
Hmm.
course, I started that
Hmm.
journey when I was maybe 10, 11, 12.
Hmm.
But I know that that's a practice that has carried me throughout my life.
Hmm.
And you don't have to be, a big journaler, but you can at least have some prompts that you're listening and you're answering. So the name
Yes.
of the book is Your Fierce Life: Six
Mm.
Simple Steps to Daily Confidence for Teens. And the woman is Erin Tarr. So if anybody wants to check her out, but definitely that's someone who I was quite impressed. And again, you and everybody that I've been interviewing lately, I'm like blown away.
Yeah.
So really exciting about this content that's going to be serving others as we come about. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think that I shared this with you, Julie, but so I was a life coach back before the term was very popular
Mhm.
online. But I was a life coach for youth that were in
Ooh.
foster care. Um,
Oh, Felicia, I love that. Oh, we're
yeah.
going to have to talk about that more.
We will, but I'm gonna, of course, I'm writing down the name of this book and its author because I'm still very much so connected to the foster care community here in the region, and I think that would be an incredible gift for them.
Yeah,
Um,
you know what? I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I know that
okay.
people are gonna be like, what the heck? I'm like, yeah, sorry. It's important.
Awesome.
I have such a heart for the foster care system. The company that I used to work for, the founder really felt strongly in giving back. And one of the
Yes.
things that we did is we ran programs for foster care youth.
Hmm.
And I have a good friend who grew up in foster care as well. So I
Hmm.
know some of the challenges and difficulties that they encounter. So
Oh,
great work, and definitely anything that I can do to support you in that, let me know. We'll
oh,
talk offline. So
yes. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
so much to do. You talk about it in your website and how you work with change makers. What makes someone a change maker?
Oh, Julie, change makers, and we talked about success earlier. change makers don't always necessarily have to be the face that you see on TV
Hmm.
or the name that you see on a book. They have to be someone who has a heart for advocating for someone else, right? They're someone who wants to make a difference. And it's not just that they want to, but they take action, right? I
Hmm.
just shared this. We had a networking group last week, and that was one of the first things I said. Change makers take action. The one thing that sets change makers apart from anyone else, and you can be a change maker in any industry, you can be a
Yeah.
change maker in nonprofit, you can be a change maker in business, I mean, obviously, and most people think political or social service, but they don't think about education, right? They don't
Hmm.
think about change makers in
Yeah.
education. They don't think about change makers in business, right? And of course, in for-profit businesses, this is, bottom line dollars, but I work with organizations that are mental health agencies, substance abuse agencies, other coaches, other consultants, other trainers, and they're really positioning themselves to serve people,
Hmm.
right? And so, what makes someone a change maker is them taking action towards, for or against,
Hmm.
anything that they see that needs to be
Yeah.
addressed or changed in the world.
So good. So good. I think that, at the end of the day, with the work that you and I are doing, there is that impact in the lives of others that we'll never see and we will never know.
Absolutely. Hmm.
But we're driven really not, with the thought of, oh, look at me, look at what I'm going to accomplish. But we're
Hmm.
driven by, if I can just give this person the tools, if I can support them in
Hmm.
their mission, in their purpose,
Hmm.
I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's
And
it.
yeah, yeah, I love that.
That's it.
So so many different things that in getting to do some research before our conversation, I found that like, oh my God, I love her. Oh my God, look at this. This is great. Um, you are very strategic. That's one of the things that I love to do is be incredibly strategic and think big pictures and then break it down into systems
Hmm.
because anybody can think big picture, but it's the systems, it's the
Hmm.
processes that
Hmm.
really create momentum.
Absolutely.
Where do you think are the breakdowns for people in running a business?
Oh.
And what are the systems that, if you had to say, okay, these handful of systems are the ones that you need to have in place?
Hmm.
Tell me more about that.
So, gosh, we could talk for hours about this. This is
Oh, yeah, for sure.
this is what lights me up, right? And before I dig into that, that was exactly the question I asked myself shortly before Thanksgiving break. And I wanted to be able to give those that I was working with tools to last them through the break because I really wanted to be offline, right? This was
Yeah.
a part of me taking care of me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let me put together, a 2 pager, 3 pages of things like here's some resources, here's some things that are going to get you through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving
Hmm.
Tuesday, and you should be good, right? If you haven't planned for fourth quarter, then you should be good. So, Julie, and this might be a surprise, but I ended up creating a 70-page magazine. Um,
Ooh. I saw the cover, but
yeah.
I wasn't, I'm like, oh, is this an ongoing thing? I love that.
Thank you. But this essentially answers that question. What are the
Okay.
essential systems that you need to operate as a business? And one of those things is keeping it simple, right? Um,
Ooh.
if someone is a new business owner, then you are coming in, number one, when barrier to entry is very minimal.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
there's also the challenge of, well, what do I choose? Who do I choose? How do
Mm.
I choose?
Yeah.
And so it looks like making sure that your decisions are vision aligned. And that requires you sitting down and thinking about, well, what is my vision? Where do I see myself in 6 months, a year, 3 years,
Mm.
right? Those things we hear that a lot, but I see too often folks making decisions that aren't vision aligned. They are
Yeah.
outsider imposed, you
Hmm.
know? It's, do you feel good about your business today? And is it that you don't feel good about it because it's not aligned with, what your gut is telling you? Or have you just made some decisions because it made sense in the market, right?
Mm.
Those things don't lead to balance.
Yeah.
Simple. So number one, keeping it simple.
Yep.
Number two, support system. Who
Hmm.
is in your corner, both professionally and personally? And when I say professionally, definitely if you're a service-based business, whether you're online or brick and mortar or click and mortar, who's your assistant, right?
Yep.
Who's your buffer?
Yep.
Who's your, and I was speaking with a friend slash client yesterday, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much, it's a lot." And I was like, "It is," but keeping it simple means that you have a strategy, right? You're looking at December 31st, 2024, and the question is, where do I want to land?
Hmm. Yeah. So good. I can't wait to get the magazine, by the way. I just got it too. So
Oh, awesome.
I can't wait. So good. Um, what do you think is our responsibility as minority women when it comes to supporting
Mhm,
others? And again, people are like, well, why do you bring it back to minority? Why do you bring it back to this conversation? But
mhm,
it's the reality is that these are the individuals who have had less opportunities,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Think about, and if you're listening to this, kind of rolling your eyes at me right now, I want you to think about this. Think about someone who is in a wheelchair and cannot walk,
mhm,
and they walk up to, the rocky steps. They
mhm,
can't run up the rocky steps
mhm.
like Rocky did and stand at the top and cheer, right?
Right,
They have to have an accommodation,
right,
and they have to have something that's going to help them, because for many years they didn't have that. And I think that the same thing with many minorities. We don't have the same doors that have opened for us.
right. Equity is not always a reality for us.
Yeah.
And we know that, right?
Hmm.
Others who don't have that experience don't understand that.
Hmm.
And there are times when I won't take responsibility for teaching that
Hmm.
because I know it. I'm living it. I've
Right.
experienced it. We're living it. We've experienced it.
Hmm.
Um, that was one of the motivations behind going from a two-page handout to give to the people that I was immediately
Hmm.
working with, and then creating this magazine and
Hmm.
it being free,
Amazing. That's an
right?
amazing resource, by the way, and I can't wait to share it with the listeners.
um, when I started my first business, Julie, I went to people who I thought who were positioned to help me, and
Hmm.
not that I was expecting them to give me anything, right?
Right.
Um, but I went to people who and I have two people who I can look back and say they championed me, they helped me, at times we bartered services. But I know, and this is why I give to between 3 and 5 women, minority women per year. I
Hmm.
give them my time without a cost or a
Yeah.
very low cost, right?
Hmm.
Because I believe in investing and I believe in the law of sowing and
Hmm.
reaping.
Yeah.
Um, but it is important for me to make sure that those women know that no matter where they've come from, no
Hmm.
matter what the world has told them who they are and what they're supposed to look like, what they're supposed to sound like, what jobs they're supposed to have or not
Hmm.
have, or what they are and aren't supposed to have access to. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that they understand that you can.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
can. I mean, and again, it could be that, it's like, oh, we hear this all the time. No, I'm here to tell you, you can. I have overcome so many challenges. I have, you know, I'm going to say propelled and pivoted my way through so many situations, so many
Hmm.
different career shifts, so many different relationship shifts, so
Yeah.
many different health shifts. And I want that minority woman to believe that she can, right? Because hope,
Hmm.
everything begins with the hope, right? And once that seed of hope is planted, and once she sees you, right? She hears
Yeah.
you, she sees the impact and the influence of Julie, it then becomes the question of, oh, well, if Julie did it,
Yeah.
right?
I can do it.
I could do it. Or
Absolutely.
if Felicia is saying, My handle is at friends call me Fee.
Mm,
I'm genuinely this person.
yeah.
Right. I know some people have online personas. This is what you get. I
Oh,
don't know
same
how
for
to be
me.
anything
Yeah.
else, right?
I
I
know.
am
I
a
hate
friend.
that when people say, "Oh, I'm going to separate." Well, listen, okay, I hate it for myself. I
Right.
cannot have a separate account for my business and me. No, this
Right.
is me.
Right.
You're gonna get me in. I know that some people teach, stay in your buckets. Well, no, you know what? Life happens, and I want
Life
others to
happens.
to see that I don't always have it together. I sometimes, have a messy kitchen or dirty laundry that I haven't done. And that's part of my journey as an
Right.
entrepreneur too, right?
Right.
Creating that balance.
Right.
And yeah, what you see is what you get with me as well.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
I think that, you just made a great point. This is one of the empowering things that we have as entrepreneurs right now, as high
Yeah.
achievers right now, is that we were given a picture of what it looks like to be successful. We were
Mm,
given,
yeah.
a playbook that didn't work for us, and we decided to create our own playbooks. We
Yeah.
don't have to create what the Industrial Revolution created, these types of businesses, these types of positions of power or
hmm
perceived positions of power.
Yeah.
Well, this informational age has allowed us to take these resources and then create the type of culture that
hmm
we want and the type of platform that we want
Yeah.
to establish and leave this legacy for those other women of color.
Amazing. I think that again, for me, I was always taught, you're a leader, not a follower. And along with that, hey, if you have, you must give. And that's something that's ingrained. And I'm hoping that through people listening to these conversations, I'm not aiming to um to say I'm better than you, but I'm aiming to maybe inspire someone to think,
Hmm.
hey, because the law of reciprocity comes
Hmm.
back. And my
Hmm.
husband's going to correct me that I said that wrong, but I don't care. But it comes back to you and,
It
and
does.
do it because, by the way, I get a heck of a lot more than I give. And it is a little
Absolutely.
selfish in my part that, but I do it because I know that um, if I'm in a position to give, why not? So I
Right.
love it.
Right.
Yeah.
I can relate. When you have your intentions clearly
hmm
established, when you have your own definition of success
Yeah.
clearly established, then reciprocity and contentment contributes to reciprocity,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
It contributes to you being in this heart posture of gratitude
hmm
and in this heart posture of, I want to see and recognize the good.
hmm Yeah. I love
Yeah,
it. We could probably spend another hour talking about everything.
we
But what do you
could.
have cooking for 2024?
Oh my gosh. So, first, I just launched the Growth and Impact Network. We're going to be meeting quarterly, but a group
Cool.
of business owners and nonprofit leaders who get together and share and talk about their successes. It's a space to connect, to
hmm
celebrate, and create. Strategic Edge was just released in November, the magazine that came
hmm
about in about 6 days, Julie. I
Oh,
I
what,
don't
what?
recommend anyone do that, but that's what happened with this high
Yeah.
achiever.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Yep.
So we'll be releasing the next issue about midsummer. So it'll be released
hmm
twice a year.
Okay.
I'm also working with Dr. Rakesha Fry Brown on releasing a research article, which is a
Mm-hmm.
follow-up to my capstone project with Harvard University on understanding truancy in urban settings and how connecting can further that work along. But Dr. Keisha Fry Brown and I have worked arduously on this research article, but sharing that with the community, the silent dangers of Black girls in education. And so
Mm.
that would be Yes. So speaking of
Oh,
our women of color, our little girls of color,
yeah.
and so those are my three primary things. Of course, supporting my nonprofit leaders
Hmm.
through the foundation. I am blessed to every day get up and encounter these people who
Hmm.
are impacting this region in such a powerful way,
Mm,
sometimes in a quiet way.
yeah.
But I wrote a blog article a couple weeks ago that nonprofits are the heartbeat of humanity.
Oh,
Um,
tell me more. I absolutely. And there's so many small nonprofits that are doing some outstanding work.
mhm,
And we don't even know it
we
because
don't.
we just kind of like, oh, okay, we hear the big ones and they're great. The
Yeah.
United Way does grant and gives the money to the smaller ones, but
Mhm.
still the
Yeah.
smaller ones are doing really great work.
They're doing
Yeah.
such incredible work. And I encourage everyone to seek out a
Mhm.
nonprofit in their local community
Mm.
and to consider giving of their time, talent, or their treasure, right?
Oh, so good.
This is a critical point in this time
Hmm.
of year. December 31st is actually the largest giving day of the year.
Yeah.
And so I encourage anyone, if you don't have the time to volunteer, you don't have the treasure, the finances, right, to donate stuff, right?
Yeah,
Gently used
absolutely.
items, or if you want to pick up something extra, um, share that, but also
Hmm.
ask the nonprofit, what exactly do you need and how
Yeah.
can we help? But that could also be as small, Julie, as sharing a post,
Oh,
re
absolutely.
retweeting,
Yeah.
sharing and awareness and eyes on them,
Hmm. Can
super
make a
helpful.
difference, can make a difference. And, there's so
Yes,
many different ways to give and to do. Again, treasure a lot in time. A lot of people think, oh, I don't want to go to the soup kitchen and serve food. You don't have to. You can do
you don't
social
have
media for
to.
them.
That's it.
You could, go in and make phone calls for them to
That's
solicit
it.
stuff. Whatever your gift is,
That's it.
there is something that the nonprofits need
That's
that
it.
they would be incredibly grateful because they don't have the bandwidth for all of it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So,
Yeah.
oh, so much. Well, tell us, Miss Felicia, where we can find
Yes,
you.
absolutely. So, FeliciaFordandCo.com. There are resources available at FeliciaFordandCo.com/resources.
Hmm.
And then for social, you can find me at Friends Call Me Fee or at Felicia Ford and Co. on all platforms.
Amazing. Well, we're going to have all the information in the show notes, and I encourage you to please connect with my friend Felicia. She's doing some incredible work. If you're looking for uh, um, someone to help you level up as a change maker, someone who's going to support you in the business of life, right? Because it's
Yes.
all one package. So, Felicia, thank you so much for being here. And I would love to again continue to collaborate, be in each other's universe. You are just admirable. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Julie. I want to say, I mean, you're incredible. It's
oh,
so easy to speak with you.
thank you.
And not only just like elevating the platforms of others, but also bringing awareness to the issues and allowing people to think. I think that that plants that seed that plants legacy. And so I
Mm,
also want to thank you and thank you for having me.
thank you. I feel seen. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Don't forget, everybody. You know what I'm going to say. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business, push you behind your current limits, expand your connections discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.